wife is like, I want to watch it. I was like, don't watch it when I'm doing it. Just watch the recording.
No, she's still watching when you're doing it. She can comment and stuff.
You know, it makes me nervous. Like, you need to ask. She'll be texting me the whole time. I was like, stop that.
Tell her to watch it. Tell her she can watch it.
Hey, Renelle, you can watch it. I know that. She knows that.
Tell her, say hey.
Nate says hey.
All right, guys. It's 4 minutes till. Come on in. We're going to get started at 8 o'clock. I'm sharing it.
I think you want to get your CD player.
Come on in the room. I did that with Caleb. I said, Jesus is my doctor. They say, no, it's Jesus loves me. This.
That's funny.
It's funny, man. Kids are funny. Stuff they do can be so comical.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure God look at us the same way and stuff we do. I'm sure he's like snickering up on his throne. Like, look at this fool right here.
I knew he was going to do it. I was hoping he made a different choice.
That's funny.
Look at him. Look, you gonna do that for real? No. All right. Just laughing.
Just laughing.
Yeah, man. We just gonna converse. Just have a conversation. Have fun with it. Come on in, guys. 2 minutes to 8. Let me know you're here. I was just watching a video on Instagram talking about Master P and about his business success. Man, that's a smart dude, man.
Business. Yeah, he came out of nowhere. When everybody was like trying to get their piece of the pie. Master P sold his beats to Apple, and it was like, boom, first billionaire. Take that, 50 cents. Take that, Sean Combs. Take that, Jay-Z.
Man, when you think about those guys and what they learned and how they learned it, man, it's like consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Key, consistency and hard work.
Persistence.
Yep. Don't give up.
Persistence.
Don't let people's words stop you. All right, we got 1 minute. 1 minute. Somebody's in the room. Pastor Johnson, what's up, man? It's been a minute. We are talking about fatherhood. All right, it's 8 o'clock. What's going on, everybody? Thank you again for tuning in to A Father's Authority, where we are changing the narrative on fatherhood. Tonight, we got a great interview. For those of you that are tuning in for the first time, I always tell you, A Father's Authority is a part of Kingdom Relationships, where we exist to change the narrative on fatherlessness and start a conversation on fatherhood, getting the hearts of the father back to the children. And we've been doing it since February, every Monday night. And tonight we got a great guest. We got my friend and brother, Casey Roberts. I keep wanting to call him Dr. Casey Roberts, but
not yet.
We're going to get there. We're speaking into existence. We got Casey Roberts on tonight. Man, how you doing tonight, bro?
Good. How's everyone doing out there?
Everyone is good. Everyone's good. We got people tuning in. So tonight we're going to talk about fatherhood. So, Casey, tell a little bit about yourself.
So, I'm a pretty young father. I got a 10-month-old boy and a 6-year-old girl, Daphne and CJ. Happily married to lovely Renelle Roberts. I'm a pretty lucky guy to get her.
He trying to get some points tonight, yo.
Because I know she's probably watching.
You watch it.
And I hail from Hampton, Virginia, and I grew up in Hampton. Went to Hampton High, go Crabbers, and went to school. Went to Virginia Tech, go Hokies. And I'm an educator in Hampton, and loving life, living my best life.
That's good. That's good. So tell us your story about your life. Did you have your father growing up?
So my dad, my mom and my dad got divorced. I think it was around maybe 10 or 11. And they got divorced. I didn't find out the real reason until I turned 18, why they got divorced. My dad stepped out, a little infidelity. And my dad lived in Smithfield, which is adjacent to Hampton. And I would see him every once in a while. He kind of did his fatherly duty of paying child support. But as far as spending time with me and, giving me fatherly advice, I wasn't there. So my mom did a phenomenal job of stepping into that role a bit and introducing me to strong Black men that I could look up to, and they kind of surrounded me and kind of taught me, everything, the rite of passage type things, tying a tie, learning how to shave, those types of things. And I would go to them sometimes if I had questions about my own manhood and being a man. And then I also had my dad sometimes, but I always had to seek him out. He never sought wanting a relationship with me or my brother.
Okay.
My brother's 4 years younger than me. And, I had to step into the man of the house role very young, and I'm very type A, and I was very big brother over him. And, my mom was like, you're always bossing him around. But I mean, you got a 12-year-old boy trying to be the man of the house, trying to teach an 8-year-old coming into himself. So it was kind of awkward, but my mom did a phenomenal job with 2 Black boys, and school was number one, church was number one, school was number 2, and she didn't raise no fool. And, one thing I do appreciate about my mom is that she did not have a revolving door of men coming in and out of our lives. Okay. She really sacrificed her younger years to take care of my brother and I. And I think that paid off in the long run. And she would say that, I made a conscious choice not to just, put you guys on the side and try to go find a man because I didn't have one. I really poured myself into you too.
And that's good, because you see a lot of women, and it's been years, a lot of women that because that father wasn't there, they seek out other men, and it's like you said, a revolving door of men come through the household, and the children always seeing these different men. Oh, that's Mr. Tom, that's Uncle Johnny, oh, that's Mr. So-and-so, Mr. So-and-so, and then he'll be there for a while, then he's gone, come back, different one, and then just son, that, especially male children, when they do that, they feel that that's what they're supposed to do, is be in and out. In and out is a different guy. And then with females, they said, and they figure out that's what they're supposed to do, is to have different type of men. And that's why it's key for a father. And I love what your mom did. And my story is similar. When you bring strong men, strong male figures around your child, especially your sons, and you're conscious about that to help them and to raise them, it builds up. I remember the first time, and this guy wasn't even family, but I was with I used to call my mom by her first name.
Oh, wow.
Because she let me do it.
My teeth would be on the floor if I did that. Hey, Judy, whack. I still don't even call my mother-in-law by her first name. I say, Mom.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, but I was like, Joanne. He said, what you say? I said, call my mom, Joanne. He said, come here. And he grabbed me in my collar. It was like, don't you ever disrespect your mother like that and call her by her first name. I will whip your behind myself. And if I ever hear that you did it and I'm not around, I will find you and whip your behind. I don't remember his name. Wow. I got a vivid picture of how he looks. But ever since that night, I've never called my mother by her first name. And it was just like, that was their first experience of a firm male figure that broke me, not broke me, but broke that out of me.
Yeah.
But throughout my life, I had male figures and mentors that helped me and taught me, like you did, things like that. But it's very good. So how did your father not being there, your father now, and I know you, so I know you're really good, you're a great father. How
Thanks.
did your father not being there, how did it impact you being the father that you are today?
So I always I hate to lose, and I did not want to become like my dad. And my mom, sometimes, you know, as much as I love her and appreciate everything she's done for me, some of the spite from the divorce would seep into the relationship between myself and my mom, because I reminded her so much of my dad and my mannerisms, my attitude towards some things. Okay. And she would always sometimes speak over me. Don't become like your father. Don't become like your father, or you're acting like your father. So I did not want to become my dad. So I made a conscientious choice that when I have my own family, I'm gonna do the exact opposite. And on top of that, I'm going to honor my father the way a father should be honored, and not just turn my back on him as I felt as if he turned his back on me. And I would always, growing up, I would always do things to try to get his approval, make good grades. You know, my dad was very athletic. He was like the star quarterback at Smithfield High School. And I was never athletic, but one thing we did have in common is that he was in the military and I loved ROTC. So I would get every ribbon possible, get every rank possible, make good grades, crisp uniform, and I would do it so that I could get approval from him. And even to this day, my dad is 71, and I'm 35. I still do things and brag about it in front of him so that he will give me some type of affirmation, whether he says, I'm proud of you or I love you. And I can't think of a time where my dad has ever said, I love you. I think I remember a time that he said he's proud of me, but some of those things kind of hits home. But when my children come to me, I try to do the exact opposite. I spend a lot of time with them. I take time off from work. My dad was a workaholic. I take off time from work if it's like a recital or a game or this or that. I always try to make time for my kids and do the exact opposite than what I assume my dad would do, what he did. I mean, we would cry on the phone. Can you please come get us? Can you please come see us? And everything was work, 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 work. Yeah. And that broke my heart, but it didn't deter me from, all right, I'm not going to let my children go through that. And sometimes daddy has to work, but daddy is always there for recitals and other things. And I make time and build a relationship with my kids.
And that's true. And that's key. And I talked about this before on an interview, that it's important to give your kids time. And I love how you said that you wanted to be the opposite of your dad, that you hate to lose. And because you do feel like you'll be losing if you step out on your children, especially like we are, because I love my son. And I do everything, like you said, I do the same thing. If Caleb has something going on in school, if it's just paint wood sticks, you know, I'm gonna be there. And if I got PTO, I'm taking PTO. If I'm gonna be late, I'm gonna be late. But I'm gonna be there for that. And because I love how it's like his face lights up.
Yep.
From that. And there's also, I tell him I'm proud of him. He does things. Like when he's on his iPad, he wins a level. I did it, Daddy. I did it. And he's going to keep saying, I did it until I say, I'm proud of you, son. And we need here, just like you said something key that, and I feel the same way. You said you do things now as a 35-year-old man for your dad's affirmation. And a lot of men don't realize that that's what they're seeking out, is the affirmation from a father. I remember the first time I was really got affirmed by one of my mentors. Man, I broke and I cried, and because I look for that I look to hear, I'm proud of you, son. I had a moment. I was telling my wife, I had a moment the other day while I was just in the bathroom, and I was listening to a motivation. I listen to sometimes in the morning motivational speakers, and I was listening to one, and I just had a moment of needing to hear my father say, "I'm proud of you, son," or "Son, do this. This is what you do. This is how you do it. This is what you need." And it was just that moment of needing that father's wisdom. And I mean, I'm not ashamed to say I broke down crying in the mirror.
Yep.
Because it was like a moment of just need to hear a father say, "This is what you need to do."
Yeah.
And then God, and I took some time and pray, and God showed me what to do. But it's still like you want that sometimes. You want to hear your daddy say, "Good job, son," or "Son, this is what you do," and give you that direction. And a lot of men are looking for that, but they're afraid to say it.
Yeah.
It's hard to say that they want it and they need it.
Yeah. And my dad grew, he was hardened by his own life growing up in the country, and he's the only one that went to college, and he had a lot of pressure on him. But as much as my mom cared for me and nurtured me, made me into the man I am today, she can never fill that void that my dad can fill. And I don't necessarily, because I'm not very emotional per se. It is just that when I think about it, I think of in Lion King, when Mufasa's talking to Simba and just passing down that wisdom that completes a young man's growth and development. He knows his place in society. He knows his place in God's creation, that you are to do these things. And there are people that can be those surrogate father figures, but I would have preferred to hear it from my own father.
Right. Yeah.
And even though I didn't hear from my father, and I heard it from surrogate role models, I'm going to pass it down to my daughter and my son, especially my son, what I've learned and what does it mean to be a man? Because now in society, there's so many definitions, and you're not black enough, you're not manly enough, you're not this, you're not that. And I struggled with a lot of that. And what I mean by identity was, like I said, I wasn't athletic, or I wasn't your jock or Mr. Popular. But I had my own identity, and I felt as if this was the right track to take to becoming a man, with everyone that surrounded me and what my mom taught me and what I saw. And now society, there's only one type of man you can become, and anything less than that, you're not a man. And especially in an African-American society, that if you're not, Boris Cujo or Morris Chester, all these things, then you're less of a man. And even if you have a family and you're trying to do the right thing, you're like Joshua of your home. As for me and my house, we shall serve the Lord. And you put your foot down. Is so different than what the world portrays a man to be.
Yeah.
And I had to, God has kind of molded me. Life and experience has kind of molded me. But being a man is about making decisions that not only determines your destiny, but the destiny of your entire family.
Yeah.
And you have to make the right decision. If you make the wrong decision, it's not just you that's going to suffer, but everybody and your descendants will suffer as well.
Yeah, and that's true. And thing is, like you said about society, and that's the reason I do this. These interviews is because I want men and I want fathers to see that you can be the man that God created you to be. No matter what society says, you have to step out and step into your God-given role as a father. Because if we follow society, then we're going to teach our kids to follow society.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to teach our kids what society says they should be. Then we're going to put that on them, and then they're going to grow up not knowing their identity and not knowing who they are. Mm-hmm. And as men, as fathers, we got to know who we are. Teach our children how to know who they are. And that's that's missing a lot in society today, because a lot of men, like you said, there's a lot of definitions on what it means to be a man, and today. And so unless we really know who we are and what it is to be a man, we'll never be able to raise our children right and be that father figure. So what does fatherhood mean to you?
Fatherhood, it took me a while to kind of get that definition down packed, because I never saw it modeled in my own, like with my own two eyes. I grew up in a time where you had TGIF, so you see, Family Matters, you see Carl Winslow and Uncle Phil on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And those were father figures that you could see that had a lot of good qualities that I wanted to exhibit. But fatherhood means to me, I think it's a sacred duty that God has bestowed on men, and your responsibility is to raise your kids and to protect your family and to love your wife. The biblical definition of fatherhood is what I've tried to define my life by. And I believe that my success professionally stems from my success or making the conscious decision to be a father, a husband first, and a father second, and a school administrator third. And every day I take this duty very seriously. And the day I don't take it seriously is the day I fail my wife and I fail my kids.
That's good.
And my wife always complains that she never has a day off. Well, as a father, I feel the same way, and I do it as a sentinel. You're standing watch over your kingdom, and you're training them, you're providing for them, you're protecting them, you're leading them towards Christ, because they see Christ in the relationship you have with their mother, the father has with the mother, so they're getting led to Christ. And I take great pride in raising my kids, and they're a reflection of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say to parents in schools sometimes that, your kids are a reflection of you. Whether you tried, you didn't try, they're a reflection of you, and a reflection of sometimes the environment by which you provided for them. And you have to be very conscientious of what you expose your kids to, and you protect them from any foolishness outside of your home that does not lead them towards Christ and does not set them up for success. And to me, that's my definition of fatherhood, is a sacred duty to love, protect, and to serve your family and your kids and your wife.
That's good. That's good. And I like how you use the examples of being a sentinel and you're standing watch over your family, because we have to, as fathers, we have to take on that role and take on that mindset that we're always protecting our family, and not just, sometimes I think we get to a point we think it's just physically where we're taking care of our family, and financially we have to cover them spiritually, emotionally, we have to, as well as physically and financially. But once we get the spiritual down pat, then everything else is going to fall in line, because our relationship with God, once you have a right relationship with God, it's going to exemplify down to our family. Like you said, your kids are a reflection of you, and you can always tell what happens in the home by the way the kids act. If you see a child that's bad mouthing and cursing and doing things, and at home that's probably happened, and they're being allowed to do whatever they want to do. And as fathers, we have to come in, we have to put our foot down and step in that role, and not be afraid to manage our homes and lead our homes, and not worry about what society say, because because ultimately we're going to be held responsible for
Absolutely.
With our families.
Absolutely. I don't want to stand before God. God's not going to care about what I did at work, or, I got all these awards and these degrees and made all this money. The first thing he's going to ask me is, did you love your wife? Yes. Did you do sort of like the talents. What did you do with your talent? What did you do with your kids?
Right.
And if you buried your kids and didn't do nothing with them, then he's not going to be happy with that. But if you cultivate their minds, their bodies, their hearts, and their souls, you're going to get well done, my good and faithful servant. Because I'll tell you this much, raising kids ain't easy.
It's not, man. Woo, and you got two. I got one, and it's woo. But all I want to say too, any fathers out there, I know there may be somebody saying, well, what if you don't know how to do that? What if you don't know, you never had that? And I don't know. Well, you can always get that information if you seek God, and if you go find somebody. Don't be afraid. A lot of men are afraid to ask for help.
I'm one of them. One of them.
They can't go and ask for help on how do I do this with my child. I'm quick to go to mentors, people that I know that have raised children successfully. Hey, this is what I'm going through with Caleb. Can you give me some advice on how to do this? I remember the first time I needed to really discipline Caleb, have a talk with him about some things that was done at school. And I went to a mentor of mine and said, hey, this is what's going on. I need help. And he gave me some advice, and it helped, and it worked. Mm-hmm. But we can't be afraid to go and ask for advice because thinking that it's going to make us look soft. If we need advice to help raise our children, we got people out there to get it. We got to go and get it and ask for that advice.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, who you surround yourself with is key. And I do have some people that I can ask, some advice from, but I do understand that I don't think, not the fear of asking people for help makes you soft. I think in my eyes, I feel as if I have to, and maybe that's just pride, because I take great pride in I guess how I'm conducting myself. And I guess my personality too. I don't like to not know. So I'll do all this research and I'm doing this behind the scenes, so nobody knows that I'm looking at this stuff. But like you said, there is so much wisdom out there that we can go grasp, and Proverbs talks about that wisdom is out in the street crying out, I'm here, I'm, come and partake of me. And there are a lot of men, godly men, that have been there and done that, and they are ripe for the picking of getting that wisdom on how to handle certain behaviors that you don't know how to approach. And that only comes through life experience. I've only been on this world for 35 years. You have some guys 50, 60, 70, 80 years old. They know how to handle those things. And guess what? There's nothing new under the sun. The same things that happened when they were young fathers and when they were kids and their fathers, it all kind of comes around in one full circle. And like you said, reaching out to them to give you some insight, because basically that's what you want, some insight, so you don't jump off a ledge.
Yeah.
Jump down the child's throat when it's like, yeah, I really wouldn't take it that way. This is something minor. Try to speak with him, have some consequences, and then take it from there. Because sometimes, depending on where our headspace is, we can either jump off the deep end, or we'll just say, oh, I'm not going to even pay any attention to that. And that can lead to, bigger things down the line.
Yeah, and that's true. We had a situation with Caleb one time in school where he did some things in school. It wasn't nothing very detrimental, but it was something that we couldn't allow.
Mm-hmm.
And the advice we gave was, it doesn't warrant a spanking right now. Just have to talk to him, and Daddy has to talk to him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so it was one of those conversations what I had to have with him. And the first thing when I found out about it, my first thing was, I gotta go home, I gotta talk, give him a spanking,
mm-hmm.
And then punishment. But the advice we got was no punishment, no spanking, just talk to him. This is a talking situation. And it worked, and it helped, and I felt better because I didn't want to spank him. But it helped, because if I had spanked him, it probably would have went another way as far as him receiving it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's good, and it's the advice that I got, which was really good. So what's the best part of being a father?
Best part of being a father. The best part of being a father and I tell this to everybody. I get to see how God sees me. When I see my kids make mistakes, or when they exhibit joy and happiness, and even when you have to speak to them, I almost can see or feel how God loves us like children, and He is disciplining us like I discipline my kids. He is joyful when I'm joyful. He celebrates in success of His kids, and He restores His kids. I teach my kids a lot about, not my 10-month-old, but my 6-year-old, about the power of forgiveness, asking for forgiveness, and restoring. And we practice that when we do an infraction. Even Daddy messed up one time, and I had to go to my own child and say, Daphne, what I said was wrong. And I'm practicing what I tell you should do when you do something wrong. I said, Daddy needs forgiveness. Will you forgive Daddy? And she forgave me, just as if she did it. And the restoring aspect of relationships is so powerful, because they can actually physically and emotionally see the love that you have, that there's nothing that I can do wrong that I would lose the love of my Father. And that's sort of like the relationship with us, with God. There's nothing, except Christ. There's nothing that we can do. He's faithful and just to forgive us of our sins if we ask. There's nothing we can do that we would lose the love of God if we seek for forgiveness, and we're truly asking for forgiveness and then turning from our wicked ways. So the big thing is really understanding my relationship with God and my important role with my kids, seeing their joy, their sadness. It's like an experience like no other. You can only experience it by becoming a father. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have biological children, because there's a lot of people out there that have adopted kids or blended families. You can still experience those things in those types of settings as well. But it humbles you. And I think being an effective father from the biblical standpoint, it just makes you holier in a sense, if you do it the right way, the way God intended it to be. Sometimes I can be very stoic or cold, but when my kids come around me, my heart turns into flesh, and I can express emotions. And you're battling the world out, as a man. Oh, I gotta conquer the world. But then when you get your kids, you kind of turn into an emotional, I call it an emotional fuzzball, and you will do any and all things to love your kids, to teach your kids. If you do it the right way, you will do any. You will sacrifice yourself. I had my son just had some eye surgery and had some tissue in his eye, and the doctor was like, if we don't take it out, he's going to lose his eye. And immediately, I felt helpless. I could not. I was like, can you take my eye and put it in his head? And sacrificing yourself for your kids, it just comes second nature if you love your kids.
That's true.
And I thank God that He has given me biological kids, and I thank God that He has trusted me that I'm going to do what is right by my kids, and to train them up, shoot them out into the world so that they can be an extension of the kingdom is a powerful, sacred duty, and I take it extremely seriously. And I think if you don't take it seriously, you're not going to do it the right way.
That's true. That's true. And you said something that that I like. You said that when you look at your children and when you see your children, you see how God sees you. And one thing I realized about that, and I love about that statement, is because when we exemplify Christ in front of our children and we look at it that way, our goal is going to be to exemplify our relationship with God and God's love for us to our kids. And what ultimately happens is they see God's love through us as fathers. They see God's wisdom through us as a father. They see God's discipline through us as a father because they see our relationship with God and how it unfolds because they're watching us. And they see it. And then as they grow up, they learn how to develop their own relationship with God because they've seen us walk it out and they watch. And man, it's amazing everything they see. I do things, and when you don't think they're looking,
they're watching.
Because I'll see Caleb do something or say something that I've said or done, and I'm just like, when did he see that? You know, or
he'll say something. You'll be like, "Hey, that's something I say."
Right. It's like they're paying attention. So if we exemplify that relationship with God in front of them, like I said, set that environment and build that environment, then they will build that environment. Caleb knows that we're a family of worshipers. That and it's a song by I think it's Bethel Hill song called "Raise a Hallelujah." And at one point we were singing that song, playing that song. So he'll be walking around the house now. I raise a hallelujah. It's like, he's like, okay. So he's hearing it and he's seeing it and he sees that. And so we're building that, and that's key, said their environment. So how important are a father's words to his child?
So the Bible says life and death's in the power of the tongue. And my wife has kind of helped me discover that about myself, about my words matter, and to choose your words very carefully, especially with your kids. And even at work, sometimes I can come off very sharp or very matter of fact. And sometimes you can either build up your kids in an instant or you can tear them down. And it can happen in a blink of an eye. And how you may approach things with an adult is totally different with kids.
Right.
And kids need to have some type of connection. They need transparency, but they also need reassurance that what you're telling them is basically truth. And sometimes I approach things in very matter-of-fact ways, in one way, because I deal with adults a lot throughout the day, that I have to bridle my tongue and really speak with a tone of grace, with a tone of love. Even when I'm disciplining or even when I'm having one of those serious conversations, it's to have a tone of grace and have a tone of restoring. I think I'm really focusing on when I speak to my kids, outside of, the jokey dad or telling jokes dad or being silly, but having a serious conversation, whether it is reading the Bible together and talk about God's truth, is to come with some tone, having the tone of reassurance and the tone of truth and love. Recently, like today, of course, I laughed on the phone. My wife texted me saying, Daphne cut her hair.
Oh, wow.
And I'm at work laughing. And then I'm thinking to my mom, and then my wife is like livid. It's like, you got to come home. You got to take care of this. So I come home, like I'm going to come in like a bull in a china store and raise Cain about how you're being disobedient. But I went to her room and we had a good conversation, and I did have to discipline her. Because she was disobedient and she lied. And certain things you don't let slide. That she needs to know that if you lie, cheat, or whatever, that we determine like these are the bench posts. You go past the bench post. There is no question that you're not going to be disciplined with spanking. But I had a good conversation with her. And the old adage of I'm doing this because I love you. Like your dad says or your mom says before you get the beat down.
Right.
We don't beat our kids here. We spank them. But I found myself using sort of that I'm doing this because I love you, but I did it in a voice of grace and understanding that, Daphne, you have violated a very sacred thing. We don't lie in this house. We are obedient children because God requires that you be obedient. And then I said, well, Daddy, even though Daddy's old, I still honor my mother, and so does mommy, and we're not disobedient to our parents. And I had to come to it. I think it may be different with my boy, because I think boys, you have to approach things differently. But with a girl,
Yeah.
how you approach it as a man, girls have a tendency of absorbing what men say to them into their DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're small, I don't want my daughter to be looking to get love from a man that is violent, disrespectful, and those types of things, or just angry and mad. I want her to be attracted to males that are kind and loving and reflect how daddy treated me.
Right.
And will not take anything less than that. because you know that what's that commercial? It was like 50 cents, and the guy came over and was like, "Hey, I'm here to take your daughter out to the prom." And he's like, "Come with me, I got to talk to you." Takes him in the garage. He had all his dudes in there.
Oh yeah,
they were from they straight up got out of jail. He was like, "I'm going to put the safety of my daughter in your hands. If you mess up, your mom's gonna have to push you around in a wheelchair the rest of your life."
Right. Yeah.
And I told him too, I said, I will be having that conversation. I'm probably gonna have you and Carlos and all my other, and we're gonna be in the garage and we're going
right there. Shotguns and all.
And for a boy, I think it's gonna be totally different. How I talk to my daughter is going to be different than how I talk to my son. But I think that for the both of them having the voice of truth and the tone of grace, because that's how God treats us. Like when he disciplines us, he's not like, I'm going to discipline you and I'm just going to throw you into hell and that's going to be the end of it. I'm done. Yeah. He says, son or daughter, you have violated my law. You have violated my trust, and however God approaches it, I love you and I'm going to discipline you. And through this discipline, you are going to develop righteousness. And I do this because I love you. I do this because I want better for you. And the only way to get your attention is to do X, Y, Z. And that's how we do with our kids. We do the same. If you do it right, you do it the same way. Mm-hmm. You punish, you give them consequences, and then you restore them. Before I left, after I spanked her and everything, I restored her, just like the prodigal son. I'm restoring you back into a relationship with me and your family. And I said that daddy and mommy make these mistakes too. But when you become an adult, Daphne, if you don't learn these lessons now, the consequences are going to be more dire when you become an adult. And Daphne has an old spirit. So she understands adult themes already. And, we had dinner and she said, will you forgive me? And I forgave her. And I said, it's nothing you're never going to lose daddy's love. You just have to, be obedient, do what you ask, do what you're supposed to do. And, then everything will be okay. And I restored her. And now we're back to our regular relationship. If we don't, as fathers, restore our kids when they make mistakes, then we do a disservice to them.
Yeah.
And they're always going to be afraid of failure because there's not going to be anyone there to restore them. In my view. So
that's good.
Restoration is key. Jesus did the same to Peter. He didn't leave Peter high and dry after Peter denied. Like Peter was there. Peter saw transfiguration. He walked on water, yet he still denied Christ. And guess, before Christ went to heaven, he restored Peter before he left. The same thing we must do with our kids.
Yeah, that's true. And that's good. And I love how you said, I had one of my interviews that I had, we talked about him disciplining his daughter. And I never thought about it like that, about the effects of the father's words and how on the daughter like that is if you're always whipping and yelling, and when you discipline her, then that's the type of guy she's going to get attracted to, because she wants to be the guy like her daddy. And so daddy always whipped and he loved it. He said he loved me. He whipped me all the time. So this guy is doing it. And like you said, it is different with boys, because like when I discipline Caleb now, I do the same thing you do with Daphne. What I do is I talk to him before, unless it's something that you know how them reflexes though. You get the quick reflexes.
Hey, if you're in my arm swing area, you're gonna get it.
Well, that's one of those, like he got one of those today, one of those quick pops. It was
Or pinch. I'd usually pinch.
And then, I had to pick him up, set him on the
Mhm.
couch, put him in timeout, and then once he finished crying, then I talked to him and say, "Hey, you don't do that. That's disrespectful." Because he hit me. He wanted something. He did like that, and I was like, "Oh no, not today." And I told him, I said, "You don't hit daddy or mommy, anybody. That's disrespectful." I told him that. And I say, you sorry? He said, "I'm sorry." I said, "You understand that?" "Yes, sure." And so, and then, but not a lot of times when I'm disciplining him, before I do it, I talk to him, let him know this is why you don't do that. And daddy has to discipline, daddy has to pop you, and I pop him, and then I talk to him afterwards. After he finishes crying, after I sit him down, I don't grab him right away because I don't want him to think I'm patting him up. And after he's done crying and everything, I'll grab him, set him on my lap, and look him in his face. And I talk and I say, that was wrong. You don't do that. That's not good. That's not nice. And I tell him why. And we need that. And like I said, the kids need to be restored after you finish, because if you don't restore them, then they never understand why they did what they did was wrong, and never understand that you really love them and why you had discipline. Like back in the day, my mom, it was no this is why I discipline you or restoration. It was a shoe hitting you, coming across the room, belt, and punishment. You say, "You want punishment or the whipping?" "I want the whipping." You get the whipping and punishment. I'm thinking I'm gonna get the whipping and I can go back outside and play. But then she's probably watching. Then you get the whipping and the punishment, and then it's like you don't punish me for days. Like a record player in the room, record player, that's right. And I had my speakers in the window and I could play my music. But kids need that. They need, like I said, I like that. They need to be restored once you discipline them, but they do need discipline too. So what advice would you give your children about patience?
Patience, man. And the kids today, I'm glad I grew up in the 90s, in the 20th century. I feel very blessed. I mean, I think that's the golden age of society, I think, because I'm aware of a time before cell phones and the internet. I'm still young enough where I'm benefiting from a lot of the things that the kids are growing up with now. So I know that a lot of my kids, they're growing up with this instant gratification, whether it's the video games or microwave and that sort of thing. I think every generation has heard some similar adage about the value of patience and long suffering. And I dealt with it of when I'm going to become an adult. Like when I become 18, I'm getting out of here, and or I can't wait to get a car or whatever that I was looking for. But in hindsight, and I think that's what I'm getting to the point where I'm understanding what the old heads used to tell me, my mom and other people, is that if you want the very best in life, if you want the very best in personal relationships, then some aspect of patience has to come into play. It does not happen overnight. And I think the only way for anybody to understand that is to keep living. Life experience will teach you that aspect, the importance of patience. And I don't think the young have the maturity enough to understand the importance of that biblical principle. But how I teach my kids the value of patience is I learned this word a long time ago, no. And standing on that word, because if God had built in us this patience gene, then there will be no need for parents. I think parents have to teach patience by saying no, and helping the young to see the value of patience, whether it is modeling it or seeing it in their lives, and helping to guide their lives so that they can see the value of patience. But it's becoming harder and harder because everything has become so instant, and the brain is being developed to live off of dopamine. so much that the kids are so overstimulated that there is no like mystery of life anymore. There's no like, the secret, like some stuff that you have to look forward to. Like kids are walking around with bigger cell phones, more expensive cell phones than I do, and I have a job. I really, really good job. And they're walking around with $1,000 laptops, $1,000 phone, and they have nothing to look forward to.
Yeah, they don't go outside to play. They don't
buying a brand new car. Like that should be like when you get your first job, like when you graduate from college or you're out on your own and you buy your car, like having that experience means so much more when you're older. Today, kids get brand new cars like it's nothing. My child's not getting a brand new car. My child's not getting a brand new cell phone. And they ain't getting a cell phone at all.
You say that now.
I say that now. They're getting a flip phone.
I can tell Caleb got an iPad and an iPhone.
Yeah, my daughter has a Kindle, and she loves the Kindle, but she can only play the Kindle on the weekend.
That's good.
Like if it's school, I sort of did kind of like what my mom did. I could only watch one television show per night, like one. It was like a 1 hour show, and then on the weekends you can watch all the TV you want. But church came first, school came second, and there was no bones about it. There will be no discussion or deviating from that plan. And I intend to do the same thing with my kids because, again, you're there for a reason. God put you in charge spiritually, physically, emotionally, and you need to do your job.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, man. I can remember back in the day, my mom, if you asked why, she said no, and you said why not. That was these knuckles, the top lip. They always get you right there. And you couldn't say no, you couldn't ask why. There weren't no explanations. And the thing is, kids they absorb so much and learn so much now that as fathers we have to. I was talking to Caleb's teacher one day, and because we were in the store, and I told Caleb no, and he said, "Oh," he started crying. I said, "Why are you crying?" "Because you told me no." I said, "Yeah, because I said, you need to hear no. I don't like it when you tell me no." So I'm like, "Why is he?" And so I asked the teacher at school. She said, "Well, we teach them to express their feelings." I'm like, "Y'all will teach them to get an elbow beside his head." I was joking, but one thing. So I was talking to the director of the school, and I said, I understand how y'all teach them how to, express their feelings. I said, but they express their feelings a little too much. She said, "Well, then you express your feelings." I said, "Okay." Then she was telling me how with kids today, and what they're teaching in school, how to express their feelings. And we as parents, if we're going to discipline them, we express our feelings about what they've done, what they've done wrong, and still discipline. And it goes back, like we said, we're talking to them because these kids are smarter now that if we tell them we're going to do something and we don't do it, and you say you're going to do it several times, you don't do it, they're going to look at you next time like, "Oh, you ain't going to do it."
Yeah.
They go about and they keep doing it. But that's the importance of fathers, with that father figure, because as fathers, when we come in and we put that depth in our voice and we get firm, then they look and it's like, "Oh my God." Because when I do it with Caleb, he go in the other room, he sit down on the floor. Because daddy yelled or daddy raised his voice or daddy, man, he hated when I get mad at him. "I don't want you to be mad at me." He starts crying. But because they don't want to disappoint us. When you're a true father, they don't want to disappoint you. But that's part of it, man. Well, Casey, man, I thank you for being on tonight, man. Thank you for coming on. Any last words you got for fathers out there?
Fathers, there is no greater joy than to be a father. That is almost, apart from salvation as the greatest gift that you can get, the next greatest gift is to be a father. And if we do our part, and I think that we're the key to fixing our country, to fixing the plights in our society, if men stand up and take on the role, their God-given role, that no one else can take from them, then we can fix our families, we can fix our churches, we can fix our schools, we can fix our states and our cities and our country. And it is up to us men. And we sink or swim, but we do those together. And I'm doing my part as a father, taking care of my kingdom. Nate, I know, is taking care of his kingdom. Step up to the plate, man. You got this. There's nothing wrong with being a father and doing it the right way. It is the most selfless thing you can do, sacrificing yourself for your family. And God is going to reward you greatly beyond what you could fathom and believe if you do what is right and you step up to the plate and be the biblical father that he wants you to be.
All right, man. Thank you. Y'all heard it. Step up to the plate. Casey, man, thank you. I appreciate it, man. Great wisdom tonight. Look forward to having you again.
Absolutely.
Man, tell the family I say, hey, get the kids a kiss for me.
Will do.
Uncle Nate love them, and tell Daphne we'll all be there.
That's great. All right, Nate. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys. That was my friend and brother Casey. We had a great interview tonight. So, you guys remember, short time left to get your free downloads, the first 2 chapters of my book, Authority of a Father's Words to His Son, for free. And you get the free ebook, 10 Commandments of Fatherhood, before the book goes on sale for pre-orders, and then it's released next month. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. We thank Casey. Again, as always, guys, be victorious. Oh, we're not going to have an interview next week, next Monday night. I'm going and taking some much needed time with my family. We're taking a trip. And so next Monday night is my family night. So we won't be there next Monday, but we'll be back on August 5th. Got a great interview, another interview from a daughter's perspective, guys. Love you. It's going to be Miss Demetria Stallings. She's going to be my interview on August 5th. Thank you, guys. You guys be blessed. All right. Good night.